The old blue sedan coughed and rattled before finally dying on the side of a quiet street in a small Ohio town. Laura Bennett sat frozen behind the wheel, her fingers tight around the steering wheel. Bills were already overdue, and payday was still a week away. In the passenger seat, her 8-year-old son Ethan looked at her with worried eyes, sensing her fear. School backpacks lay on the back seat, reminders of responsibilities that never paused. Laura closed her eyes for a moment, whispering a prayer that this wouldn't be another disaster she couldn't afford. A faded sign reading Miller's Auto Repair stood just ahead. With effort, Laura pushed the car into the lot. The garage door was open, and the smell of oil and metal filled the air. A man in grease-stained coveralls stepped out, wiping his hands with a rag. His name was Jack Miller, a mechanic in his late 30s who had spent most of his life fixing other people's problems while ignoring his own. He listened quietly as Laura explained what happened, nodding without judgment or impatience. Jack popped the hood and examined the engine while Laura waited nervously, calculating numbers in her head. Every sound from the engine felt expensive. Ethan watched closely, fascinated by the tools and wires. After some time, Jack straightened up and smiled faintly. "Nothing major," he said, "just a worn belt and a loose connection." Relief flooded Laura so fast it almost made her dizzy. When she asked how much it would cost, Jack hesitated, then named a price far lower than any repair she'd paid before. Laura stared at him, unsure if she'd heard correctly. She explained she could pay later, that she understood if it needed to be more. Jack shook his head. "Your car needs to run," he said simply. "Your kid needs you getting where you need to go." Ethan beamed at him, calling him cool, which made Jack laugh for the first time that day. Laura felt tears burn her eyes, embarrassed but grateful. No one had shown her kindness like that in a long time. When the car started smoothly, Laura thanked Jack again and again. As she drove away, she glanced at the garage in her rearview mirror. Jack was already back to work, unaware that his small decision had shifted something inside her. For the first time in years, Laura didn't feel completely alone. She didn't know why, but the memory of his calm voice and gentle honesty stayed with her long after the engine noise faded, planting the quiet beginning of something neither of them expected. Over the next few weeks, Laura found small reasons to pass by the garage. Sometimes it was to ask a question about the car, sometimes just to say hello. Jack noticed but never pushed. He offered coffee when she stopped in the mornings and let Ethan sit on an old stool, handing him safe tools to play with. Conversation came easily. Laura spoke about juggling 2 jobs, about the quiet evenings after Ethan fell asleep, and about learning to be strong when she felt anything but. Jack shared stories of growing up in town, of a marriage that never happened, and of choosing honest work over easy money. Ethan grew comfortable around Jack in a way that surprised Laura. He asked Jack questions he didn't ask anyone else and listened closely to every answer. Jack showed him how engines worked, explaining things patiently, never talking down to him. One Saturday afternoon, Jack helped Ethan build a small wooden toolbox, sanding the edges carefully so he wouldn't get splinters. Laura watched from a distance, her chest tightening with an emotion she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. It wasn't romance yet, it was trust, and it felt stronger. One evening, Laura's car broke down again, this time miles from town. Jack came without hesitation, arriving in his old truck with a flashlight and a smile. As he worked, rain started to fall lightly, tapping against the hood. Laura held an umbrella, trying to help, feeling foolish and grateful all at once. When the car was running again, they stood in the rain for a moment, neither in a hurry to leave. Jack looked tired but content. Laura realized then how much he had already become part of their lives. A few nights later, Laura invited Jack to dinner. It was simple: pasta, bread, and laughter echoing off the kitchen walls. After Ethan went to bed, Laura sat across from Jack at the small table, her hands folded tightly. She spoke slowly, choosing each word carefully. She talked about fear, about letting people in, about how Ethan had already lost one father and how careful she had to be. Jack listened without interrupting, his eyes steady, his posture open. Then Laura asked the question she had rehearsed and feared all at once. "Do you want to be my son's father?" The room went quiet, Jack didn't answer immediately. He thought of Ethan's laugh, of the way Laura looked when she finally relaxed, of the life he never believed he deserved. Finally, he nodded. "I don't want to replace anyone," he said softly. "But if you're asking me to love him, I already do." Laura exhaled, tears falling freely. Outside, the night was calm. Inside, something broken had quietly found its way home. Life did not change overnight, but it changed steadily. Jack didn't move in right away or make grand promises. Instead, he showed up, consistently, quietly, the way he always had. He came to Ethan's school events after work, still smelling faintly of oil and metal, and sat in the front row like it mattered more than anything. Ethan started calling him when homework felt hard or when he just wanted to talk. Jack listened every time. Laura watched these moments unfold with a mix of gratitude and disbelief, realizing that love was revealing itself through reliability, not words. As months passed, Jack became woven into their routines. Mornings meant shared breakfasts and rushed goodbyes. Evenings meant homework at the kitchen table and laughter over simple meals. Jack never tried to take control or prove himself. He asked Laura's opinion, respected her boundaries, and learned her rhythms. When money was tight, they planned carefully. When things went wrong, they fixed them together. Laura felt herself relaxing into a version of life that didn't feel like survival anymore. It felt like something solid, something she could lean on without fear. Ethan changed too. His teachers noticed he was more confident, more focused. He talked about Jack at school with pride, explaining how engines worked and how problems could be solved if you stayed calm. One night after Jack tucked him into bed, Ethan asked if Jack would always stay. Jack answered honestly, saying he planned to. That was enough. Laura heard the exchange from the hallway and pressed her hand to her chest, overwhelmed by how natural it all felt. She had guarded her heart for so long that she almost forgot it was meant to open. Eventually, Jack sold his old truck and bought a safer car, not for himself but for the family he was building. Laura helped him repaint the garage sign, adding a fresh coat of blue. The shop grew busier, not because Jack advertised, but because people trusted him. On quiet evenings, the three of them sat on the porch, watching the sky fade from orange to dark. Laura realized she no longer felt like she was carrying everything alone. She had help not because she asked for rescue, but because she allowed partnership. 1 year after the day her car first broke down, Laura stood in the garage doorway watching Jack teach Ethan how to change a tire. She remembered the fear she felt that afternoon and how small kindness had altered their future. When Jack looked up and smiled at her, she knew she had asked the right question that night at the kitchen table. Some people fix engines. Others fix lives. Jack had done both, not by trying to be a hero, but by choosing to stay when staying mattered most.